Right, great. Hi, I'm Aaron Klein. Want to thank you for coming to this. I think for some reason we're in the demo stage. I'm not entirely sure why, because we're going to talk a little bit more about monitoring and securing your blockchain. I'm the founder and CEO of BlocWatch, and this is something sort of near and dear to our heart. You know, so I gotta give you the quick 15 seconds of what we do, because my marketing people kill me otherwise. BlocWatch, really, we provide a comprehensive platform that supports multiple protocols, enabling users to manage permissioned and unpermissioned blockchain implementation. So the real sort of soundbite is we give you visualizations around what's going on your chain, what's going on in your environment, making sure that you meet compliance requirements, making sure that you have operational visibility, that you have security visibility, right? We help enterprises leverage up blockchain technology. So sort of maybe the basics and the start of what's going on, and when we think about it, right, is really a thought that production systems and all sort of, you know, any production system in an enterprise environment is going to require monitoring. And I think we all know that, right? We've all been in the space, and maybe it gets lost when we think about blockchains, because a lot of what blockchain has been sold is this fantastic system that's, you know, that has great security, that has great controls, but it still requires monitoring. And that's really my message here, right? Is that as you move things forward, you still need to understand what's happening in your environment. You still have to meet your compliance needs. You still need to meet your operational needs, your security needs, right? And none of this is new, right? It's not a new paradigm. It's not anything earth-shattering, but it's still something worth repeating as we move forward into the adoption curve, right? We said, and it's still early, and we're talking about it's 4 years into sort of when Hyperledger was launched. And as we move forward, we still need to think about what we're doing as we're starting to push projects forward, move them towards production. So it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be hard, but it is something that you need to do. And maybe sort of as an example, right? When you think about legacy and blockchain systems, they're not so different, right? They have different nomenclature, some different terminology, but conceptually, again, the ideas are very, very similar, right? So, you know, so some things, you know, you need to translate what a network is. You need to translate what operational systems look like. But if you're looking at things like configuration changes, it's going to be exactly the same. It's going to be the exact same of what's going on. We put together, you know, our engineering team put together a little paper on sort of the translation to make life easy. This is a summary of it. The full one's available there, or we're actually a exhibitor here, and you're welcome to go up to our booth and take a look at it and grab a handout. But again, it's, you know, my message is simple. You know, do the homework. And do some of the monitoring, right? Because for us to be successful, for all of us at this conference, for all of us looking for blockchain adoption, we need to be responsible. Right, so what are those core monitoring requirements, right? What is important, right? Obviously chain health. And, you know, and when you think of chain health, right, it's looking at node health, it's looking at who's attached, it's making sure transactions are going through, right? It's looking at performance. It's understanding what you expect from performance. It's making sure that you're delivering that, right? If you're putting a fabric chain or another chain into production, you're probably running tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars worth of transactions through there. You need to make sure that they're running the way you expect. You need to make sure that you're getting the performance you expect, right? You need to look at activity and event monitoring. You need to, you know, you need to understand what's going on. You need transaction validation. You need reporting and audit, because your customers or your consortium members or your users are going to need this information, right? You've got to look for suspicious behavior. You have to have expectations around what's going to occur, and then you need to set up alerts. You need to track and see what's happening on that, right? And obviously, part of that is looking at operations and configuration management. It's understanding, you know, how things are set up, making sure things aren't changed, and really sort of tracking everything that's going on in your environment. All right, so sort of as we think of the key ideas, right, let me just maybe break it into 3 key monitoring ideas, or 3 ways to look at and sort of a starting point for all this. Right, the first is obviously network monitoring. That's where everything starts. right? So you want to understand your chain health. You want to understand your chain performance, right? Let's look at what's happening from from an activity. Let's look at what's happening from alerting. So to do all that, the very first thing you need to do is really create an inventory, right? Because you can't monitor anything if you don't have an inventory of what nodes are on there, what nodes are active, what nodes are healthy. If you don't know where you're starting from, right? If you don't know what your smart contracts, what that looks like, you can't even begin to to hope to accomplish that. And then once you have that, right, you need to keep that inventory. You need to look at active nodes and health, right? You need to understand your smart contracts. You need to know performance metrics. Again, rolling back into, hey, this is what I expect. This is the speed. This is the validation. Is it happening, right? You need to look at activity monitoring in terms of, and we see it where you have a certain number of transactions you're expecting to come out of a certain area, you're expecting a certain type, right? You need to identify anomalous behavior. You want to pre-build alerts so that you can quickly respond. And then you want to, then obviously, right, when you see something, you need to take action. I mean, this is no different than other production systems. The second piece you're going to look at is, operation and configuration management. When we think of this, I mean, this is sort of baseline security 101. This is, hey, blockchains are sold by the evangelists as this super secure, fantastic new system. And it is, there's a lot of great things, but you know what? If you don't control the access to it, if you don't control who can join your network, if you don't look at that and monitor that, then, sorry, I'm just melting up here. If you don't monitor that, then you're compromising your security. You're failing in your security needs. You're failing in your compliance needs. So what are you going to look at, right? You're going to look at channel and configuration policies, right? You're going to make sure they're set up right. You're going to make sure they don't get changed. Or if they do get changed, understand why and create an audit trail around it. You're going to look at your orderer and raft configuration policies. Again, understanding what you're giving permissions to. Understanding who can access your network, understanding what sort of transactions can come through, right? And really, all of these, identify changes, track changes, alert on changes. If your network is compromised, the first thing someone's going to do is they're going to go in and they're going to give themselves greater permissions, greater policies. They're going to give access to other bad actors. And so that's really sort of a starting point from a security perspective of what you want to look at. The third piece of the puzzle is really independent transaction verification. And this is a bit to satisfy your users, right? This is a bit to satisfy your compliance needs. This is making sure that transactions, right, and totals and inputs and smart contracts, and making sure that everything matches and that you can create an easily accessible audit record for your compliance perspective, that you can create records for your users, right? So folks are going to join your supply chain. Your suppliers are on the chain, and they're looking at it. They want to make sure that what they're seeing is real and not being manipulated. And so doing that, tracking assets, visualizing your network, understanding what's happening, and then being able to display it both internally from a compliance perspective and externally to your customers builds trust, right? Builds use. Because the reality is, right, we want to build blockchain solutions because we see this as a very efficient way to improve business processes, to make it easier for our suppliers, to make it easier for our users, our customers, to build trust. But step one, and maybe 15, 20 years from now it won't be as important, but step one is let's build the trust today. Let's show them that not only are we saying this is going on, but we have independent third parties doing that. So these are really sort of the core pieces of being successful in sort of monitoring and securing what's going on in your chain, right? And again, I gotta give a little pitch for us, right? We do this, obviously, right? This is the essence of what we do. We build dashboards, and you see sort of an example of it, and we make it easy, and we do automated alerting, and we do some smart intelligent filtering, and we run hundreds of best practice checks. So we do all that, and obviously, right, I'm here because we'd love to sell it to you. But if you don't use us, that's okay too. right? I mean, candidly, you can, if you're early on, if you're just getting started, take a look at the open source tools, right? When you're just getting started and you're not running a complex network, definitely worthwhile to look at, right? Write your own scripts. It's another certainly a valid way when you're running a small network. But our message is simple, right? Use us, use an open source tool, write your own script, but you have to do it, right? For blockchain to move forward as an industry, for blockchain to be successful, for us to see enterprise adoption, you need to do this. It's just critically important. Right, so sort of the summary of the talk is really, look, blockchain systems are just like other legacy production systems, right? I mean, they're going to do some neat things, but they still require monitoring for operational metrics to make sure it's performing the way you want it to perform. They're still going to require monitoring for security, right? You're still going to make sure that despite people going, oh, the data is great, and the data can be immutable, but if you're letting anyone access your network and you're not controlling that access, then you'll have immutable garbage data, which really is no better. And it's not that complicated, right? You just have to translate a little bit. You have to think about some new issues, right? There's sort of different ways to look about it, but it's not something that should scare you away or stop you from using blockchain. It shouldn't stop you from an implementation, right? And I mean, and what to watch for is, look, it's just basic stuff. Watch for user and chain activity. Set benchmarks. Understand what you expect. Compare against those benchmarks. Look for performance. Again, understand what you expect. How fast should transactions be clearing? What should things look like? And then set alerts for anomalous behavior, right? And again, keep doing it. This is not a one-off. This is like anything else, right? People talk about security as defense in depth. Well, monitoring is too. And it's not like, hey, I checked it once a week, right? Set up a system. Like I said, use an open source tool, but set up a system so that as you push things into production, you're prepared, and your security team is happy, and your operational folks are happy, right? Your compliance is happy. Everyone's going to sign off on your project as it goes into production because you can show them the data, and you're going to be successful. Right? So, and that's it, right? They don't give us a whole lot of time here, but I definitely want to thank everyone for their time, for their interest. The slides will be available. I know that they're putting, they're going to post everything. We have a booth upstairs. We'd love to show you a demo of the product, or just talk to you in more detail around security. Or and I'm telling you, like, Josh, one of our team members is sitting over here. He'd love to talk to you about what you're doing, right, or show you what's going on. So thank you very much, and that's it. I don't know. I actually, they didn't give me a clock, so I don't know what my time is. What? We got 2 minutes of Q&A.
Awesome. So how does BlocWatch identify an asset? Like, how does it know which blocks are server logs and which blocks are JPEGs or Excel files?
Yeah, I mean, so it's configurable, right? So as you're gonna set up your chain and input your chain, we're going to ask a series of questions. We're going to run it through a wizard, and we're going to allow you, because every chain is different, right? Fundamentally, different, as you point out, right? Different chains are used for different reasons, collecting different data, different assets. And so you're able to sort of user define what's important to you, and then we're going to run our rules engine against that.
So, for example, what if I have server logs on my chain? They're just raw, Linux server entries. I could say, make sure that when you see a server boot up, make sure its uptime is make sure it's always up. And if you see a panic kill signal or some other server log activity that is shutting down, send me an alert because the server shutting down.
Yeah, well, so what, right? So obviously all the data is coming in specific areas, specific fields in a format, and then what you're gonna, we're gonna look for you to say, hey, in this field means this, right? Because what we don't want is, you know, it's software, and what we don't actually want to do is own your data. And then you can just really very easily user-defined rules or use our pre-built rules. And, you know, depending on what you label a field as, what you want rules applied to, right, you're going to get that answer. Sure. Well, so today, I mean, that's something that's certainly on the roadmap. Today, it's more of a status. So it's going to catch it in terms of a status, right? Where you're going to see, you could set up an alert for all smart contracts with status X, right? You know, defined as, and it's going to show it that way. It's not. I mean, I mean, candidly, right? It's early, and what's going on in blockchain is early, right? And this is, you know, in delving deeper into smart contracts is on our sort of very short-term roadmap. It's not going to do it automatically. You're going to have to set the alert, but once you set the alert, then it'll grab that information and display it for you. Cool. Any other questions? Awesome. Again, I mean, I encourage you, you know, drop by upstairs. They'd love to show it to you, you know, and bend your ear for 5 minutes. And thanks so much for your time, everyone.